I'm Christian Bullard.
And I'm Tony Church.
This is our review for AEW Fyter Fest 2019. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just kind of get right into the card. We're not gonna include the pre-show on this since that wasn't actually part of the card, and that won't be affecting our rating anyway. So we'll just go ahead and start from the beginning of the show, which first up we have Christopher Daniels versus Shima. Tony, what did you think of this match?
What I really liked is you could tell right from the beginning that Tony Khan is doing a good job as a booker here, like starting us off with something that's good but not great on purpose. This is a really good match, but it's nothing that the next people aren't capable of beating, which you want. Like, you want your pay-per-view to kind of go up. You want it to get better as it goes. So this is a really solid match. They didn't need, much to build on. Fortunately, they did have like the 3-on-3 match on the last pay-per-view. So we do have a little bit of that. But all in all, it was just a real solid opener. And I think at first I was kind of distracted by both of their age, but by the end of the match, I wasn't at all thinking about how old they were and how that kind of contributes to how kind of clunky Christopher Daniels looks as he comes out to the ring now. It almost feels like it almost looks like his back is fused in some places. But when you get into the match and you're watching it, a lot of that kind of fades to the background for me. So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It kind of served its purpose. It wasn't anything to like really write home about. Like you said, there wasn't really much of a story other than their thing at Double or Nothing. So there wasn't really a whole lot to go off of, but there didn't really need to be. It was just kind of like, I think it was a good way to kind of showcase Shima, even though, and this won't affect our rating or anything, but Shima didn't really go anywhere after the summer or after that summer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like now looking back at it now, the match really doesn't really matter. But at the time watching it and everything, I thought it was a fine opener, even if there wasn't really much of a story.
This whole pay-per-view was interesting, looking at who is a star now and who isn't in general.
Right.
Even like Kip Sabian later is on commentary, and like he's a babyface kind of during that time.
Right, yeah.
So it's just kind of funny when you're seeing this all together. But anyway, then we had a three-way for in the women's division. We had Riho, Yuka Sakazaki, and Nyla Rose. What do you think about this?
I thought this was a little more slow-paced than I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I think obviously because of Nyla Rose. It did pick up at times and stuff thanks to Rio and Yuka, but I wanted this to be a little faster, but and other than that, probably Yuka wrestles really gently, and it just up to the point where it's just kind of like come on, you can hit harder than that, or you can
for sure.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, for me, this actually made me think, oh, wow, there was more to the Nyla and Riho storyline than I remember. I remember, obviously, like the first match for the title and Riho winning that on the first Dynamite, but I wasn't really, remembering much before that. So this is kind of cool to see that there was a little more storyline to that, because I do think that AEW does a good job of playing back into things and thinking things really forward. So, but honestly, I'm just not that impressed with Nyla in this match at all. And I think sometimes I'm not that impressed with Nyla to begin with, but in this match in particular, Nyla was very clunky. There's the one time there's this spot of Riho is like hanging on the ropes and Nyla's going to jump off the top and hit Riho. And that's kind of like this big spot, and like Riho hung there so long.
Yeah.
It was like kept looking up, like, are you coming? Are you coming? Yeah. And then Nyla does like what looks like is going to be a springboard, and then just stands there and like gets together and then jumps again. And I don't know. It just wasn't anything crazy to me, but I was actually surprised looking back. In my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I think Riho wins this and pins Yuka Sakazaki, but actually pinned Nyla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which was surprising to me. But anyway, I just this wasn't anything crazy for me. Like I said, it does ultimately kind of play more into the AEW Women's Championship, the very, very small title meant for a very, very small body like Riho, um, to come in a few weeks or months rather at this point. But yeah, there's just nothing too crazy about this match for me at all. You're right. I agree. It was kind of slow.
Sure. Yeah. Then, yes. Speaking of the story, though, Nyla jumps Rio after the match, and so that was actually kind of a good setup, or I guess like a foreshadow for what was to come. So yeah, I agree. Like
I
I
thought
do
that was good.
Yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate those things that they do, and because even
Yeah.
I remember watching All Out, that wasn't in my mind when
Yeah.
it was the Casino Battle Royale and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like you gotta it. I like that AEW makes me like have to pay attention a little more. So
Yeah.
that
Well,
part
there's
I
always
really
kind
appreciate.
of something that if you look back at these things, you're like, oh wow, that still is there. Like
Mm-hmm.
we saw some of that kind of when Colt Cabana joined the Dark Order and had to go against SCU. Like, oh, Colt Cabana showed up to help SCU. Like, there's things like
Yeah.
that like they just continue to speak back to. So this made me like the company more watching back, but I didn't necessarily like any of the competitors more.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Yeah, so then we go into a four-way, and this four-way was set up at the last pay-per-view when Adam Page comes out to look at the championship and then gets interrupted by MJF, and then ultimately Jimmy Havoc and Jungle Boy come out. So that set up this match to be those four competitors in a fatal four-way, and it starts off with MJF cutting a promo, which was just very solid. I actually, I laughed recently when he called Hangman Seabiscuit, and I didn't realize he actually called him Seabiscuit in this too. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, what do you think about that little MJF promo?
Yeah, what's funny is I think I remember reading somewhere where that wasn't planned at all. Like right before he walked out, someone like Tony Khan or one of the producers just like ran up to a mic like, "Hey, cut a promo real quick right before the match." And so I think I remember Jungle Boy saying this. And so MJF just takes the mic, he goes out there and just does that. And it was supposed to be like really fast, but MJF takes his sweet time and everything. And
Yeah,
in the meantime, Luchasaurus was in the tunnel with Jungle Boy on his shoulders, and they're like, okay, let's just go in the tunnel. He'll just do his promo real quick. But since it's too tall for them, Jungle Boy like laid back, and he ended up like laying back through the entire promo, and he was just like saying how like so much blood was rushing to his head and everything.
That's so funny.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, the
well,
promo
you can see a couple
was,
of times.
Yeah, the promo itself was amazing. I mean, people still talk about how this is like one of his best promos. I mean, making fun of the crowd. I mean, just the way he was doing. He totally like hammered into the whole how it's like a video game festival, and the whole 600-pound or my 600-pound life on TLC, and he was taking. The best part was, I can't remember which line it was, but at the end of one of his lines, it shows one of the audience members, and he's like a total looking guy, and he's just like,
yeah. Well, what was funny is you can see where the crowd kind of like gets really pissed off, and they're booing him so hard, and so he lets them boo, and then goes at him more, and you're like, yep, this is taken away from match time for sure.
Yeah,
so it's even better when you know kind of what's going on in the background. But yeah, what did you think about this actual match?
Yeah, I thought it was a good showcase for everybody. Just kind of, I remember watching it at the time. I was very looking forward to MJF, and I kind of had to. It pulled me
Did
out
you
of
already buy a T-shirt by this point?
Yeah, I did.
You
Yeah,
bought the MJF T-shirt like right away.
Yeah. I was at first a little disappointed. I remember when I first saw this with MJF, because I was like, oh, he like didn't do any he was so limited in the ring, like didn't really do anything like super crazy or like memorable. But now kind of looking back, that's like kind of the point,
Mm-hmm.
And so his whole thing is just about his character. It's not about like his in-ring style. So I appreciate it a lot more now. But yeah, I mean, this whole, I think it's funny that we've talked so much. I mean, we've talked about, I guess, Jungle Boy and MJF, and we haven't really said anything about Adam Page. And I think that just shows
Yeah.
how little they built on him, because he was the number one contender for the world title for All Out at this point. And this was like a
Yeah.
big showcase match for him. And yet everyone just talks about MJF,
Yeah. This is like definitely like you have this guy who's supposed to go against Chris Jericho for the title, and now he's in this mid card match.
Yeah.
As we're building our brand new mid card.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I agree with you. And it was kind of like, okay, we have Adam Page, who we want to make look really good in this match. And then we have Jungle Boy and MJF, who we want to come out looking super strong. And then you have Jimmy Havoc, who can take the pin. Like, that's how this match was set up. But one thing I remember from this match was that outside spot that Jungle Boy does off the turnbuckle, and he kind of messed up. And I'm like mad that I haven't seen him do that move again.
Yeah,
since
he hasn't.
that minute. And I'm like, don't be scared, dude, because that move is so awesome.
Yeah.
So I really want to see him do that in the future. And just kind of one note here was like, Jungle Boy looks so small.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looks like just like he's ready to break in half. I didn't realize how like he's not like big now, but I didn't realize how much bigger he was until I was watching this, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, he's grown a little bit.
He has really put some time into making those shoulders a bit bigger and his torso and all that. So anyway, this was like super good, and Jungle Boy, like just the crowd loves this kid. Just right away. And I was glad because I remember when they announced Jungle Boy to begin with, I was like, that's interesting. Like, you're going to have this guy named Jungle Boy. And then I saw Luchasaurus, and I was like, okay, he's kind of interesting. But then right away, man, those guys really captivated the crowd, riding in on Luchasaurus' shoulders and everything. And I'm just really glad. I'm excited to see, especially this is the beginning of that MJF Jungle Boy feud, kind of just continue go from here. And so I was very excited to kind of look back and be like, wow, this has already become an amazing feud. That here was just beginning, just barely even a thing. You just have like a super baby face and like the worst freaking Mike talking heel we've had in a long time. And that was all we had at this point, and it's such a great feud now. Anyway, so like you said, Adam Page doesn't get too much here, sadly, but he should get more.
And it's like, if they want to put him in kind of like the mid-card thing and win, fine, but it's like they should have let him like cut a promo or do something after to like establish him more, but it's just kind of like he won and it was like, okay, next, and I guess they kind of tried to build it up a little bit with Kip Sabian, because he was on commentary for this, and like the winner of this match was going to face him at Fight for the Fallen. But again, just like kind of Kip Sabian was probably pretty unknown. Or I mean, he was pretty unknown at this point. So it's like, I don't know. That doesn't make Adam Page look like a more credible contender against Chris Jericho. So yeah,
it would have been
building
better. Like, obviously, we know differently kind of now, but I kind of am like, man, if this was like Cody or something on commentary, like Cody is gonna face him, like, okay, that makes Cody makes him look like a real credible contender, especially when he beats Cody and then goes on to Jericho, right? Like those things, that would make a lot more sense. Obviously, like that's not what happened, and that's okay. But that would make more sense than somebody random like Kip Sabian.
Right.
Anyway, so speaking of Cody, he's in this next match, and it's Cody versus Darby Allin. What do you think,
Darby Allin?
What do you think about this match before we get to the ending of it? What do you think about this match?
Yeah, that's what everyone always talked about. But I thought this match was like pretty solid. It was kind of a slow burn. It was kind of like Darby trying to fit his style into Cody's instead of Cody fitting his style into Darby's. So I think it probably split the crowd a little bit with that. I'm fine with it because I think kind of more slow burn type. If someone, I feel like it's easier to just have a big car wreck match than it is to like a slow burn, like storytelling match. And so the fact that Darby was able to pull that off with Cody, I think is like really good. And even though, and I know we'll talk more about the match, but with the ending, the fact that it was a time limit draw, I don't think it hurt Darby at all. It didn't hurt Cody at all. I think they both went out looking strong.
Yeah, I think, man, to bring Darby into this match, where like he's got a like at face value, he's got a stupid name, a stupid gimmick, and no one knows who he is.
Is that his real
And
name?
no,
Okay.
and then in the
Never.
end, like he's got stupid gear, like what? Like who is this guy? And by
Yeah.
the end, man, I didn't care about his gear anymore. By the end, like I wanted to know deeper about this face paint. By the end, I wanted to like see this guy kill himself against somebody else.
Hmm.
Like they took a full 20 minutes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they really made a star here. And this is where I knew I was sold. Like,
Hmm.
I remember looking back at this match and like, I know now that AEW is going to build stars and I can watch this company for years to come. Like, because everybody's like, they might not make it out a year. They might not, whatever. I know that family has
Yeah.
a lot of money, but like, this is, wrestling promotions have tried, rada, rada. Like, this right here was like, holy crap, they can build for the future.
Yeah.
Um, and we have the first, like in this match, we have the first coffin drop on TV, like a pay
Yeah.
per
Right.
view. And that coffin drop was just absurd,
Hmm.
man. Like, how did he not leave in a body bag himself?
Yeah.
But this, I don't know. For me, man, this match was really good. Brandy does not annoy me because she's playing heel.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know about you, but Brandy didn't annoy me the whole time. I remember watching at the end and be like, Brandy didn't annoy me here. Like,
Yeah, well,
and
she didn't do what she does sometimes, where she kind of inserts her in the match, or I guess just part of the story, and she didn't really do that here.
yeah,
She was literally just the manager, and
yeah.
he did manager
And
stuff, and
she didn't like over smile and try to be babyface, and she wasn't
Mhm.
talking. And anyway,
Yeah,
this is super solid. The match goes to the 20-minute draw, which was a solid 20-minute draw. The crowd is, obviously kind of confused. This is the first time they actually are seeing AEW care about a time limit, which is really good, especially because, most times we actually do see some sort of time limit in like a WWE match or whatever. It was like a 30-minute Iron Man match. Like it's supposed to be 30 minutes.
yeah,
Like that's the type of the match. So they set it up in just a really good way. And then the crowd is like, let them fight, like more time,
hmm,
whatever. And then we have Sean Spears show up out of nowhere. He gives Cody a look and then clocks him in the head with a chair. And that chair somehow hits him here, but cuts his head open over here,
yeah,
and completely lays Cody out with a gimmicked chair that was apparently not as gimmicked as it should have been.
right.
This chair shot was horrible, and it hurt watching it again.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So so I guess I should start by saying this. At this point, I had only gotten back into wrestling for a month. Me getting back in was Double or Nothing of 2019. So I was still like pretty new, going back in from like, I don't know, 5 years away. So seeing this, I feel silly saying this now, but for like the first like couple minutes, I was actually wondering if it was 100% not a work,
Oh
because of
yeah,
like how it wrapped around and like it split his head open, and like the whoever people coming out and stuff, and like MJF coming out,
yeah,
and just how dead everyone was. Like, I don't know, man. The atmosphere was like just insane by how like quiet and just stunned everyone was. Like, I was actually like, is that a work? Is it, and I feel dumb saying that now, but it's just like in the moment, it's just like it was just so surreal. Of course, unfortunately, this became a really big controversy with like the whole chair shot to the head and the CTE and stuff like that. Cody didn't end up getting a concussion. We all know he got, I can't remember how many stitches.
12 stitches or
Well,
something.
yeah. And so,
And he was back in gorilla position and like in,
yeah,
in
he
the
just went right back
20
and kept going. Unfortunately, this was like the head splitting thing, I think, is really what caused. I don't think the outcry would have been if it was just a clean shot.
Yeah.
But it kind of sucks that like, because they had to come out and be like, oh, it was a gimmick chair, it was did it and all this stuff, and it was just like, God, that sucks that they had to like give it away and tell,
Yeah.
it's like they kind of had to break kayfabe for it because people were really upset. And it's like, if both guys agree to do that, like Cody was like, yeah, I'm sure he's probably the one who was like, it was his idea to
It
get
was his idea. Yeah. Sean
right. So
Spears
it's
was
like,
like his best friend and never came up with this idea.
right. So it's like, then it shouldn't be that big of a deal if they agree to do that, like, then let it be a part of the show. But of course they had to like backpedal and stuff like that, and then now they had to do a whole like not. I know they do chair shots to the head kind of, but it's usually
But
like,
yeah, they don't do unprotected. Like
yeah,
with
it's
their arms
usually
up.
about like throwing the chair or there's a hand up or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of a bummer. I don't say it ruins the whole post controversy stuff, ruined it for me, but it
Yeah.
did kind of like dampen it for me.
Well, I think this is their second show. Like
Yeah,
and this is literally their top star.
yeah,
So like, and their top executive vice president. Like, what do you do when your second show has such a massive controversy around one of your angles? Like, how do you handle that? And I don't know that they did it right. I don't know that they did it wrong, but like, yeah, how do you handle that coming out? Like, this is a huge thing. Some people were, I mean, I remember like almost wanting to throw up. He hit him so hard. Like, I was like, I was searching Twitter like you wouldn't believe. I didn't even have the app, dude. I downloaded the app and started flipping through Twitter, like trying to figure out what was going on, because like I needed to know, is Cody alive? Like, is he okay? And so anyway, I think what's frustrating to me is knowing that like this built Sean Spears up. They make him look good the next match, and then after
we haven't even touched the Sean Spears part of it yet. But yeah.
So I think what's frustrating to me watching it back was that it was such a ridiculous thing, it was just over the top in a good way. Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was this huge controversy, and they kind of failed the push. And so that bothers me. It was like, okay, if you're going to do that, like, then you give that to John Moxley. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, yeah.
Give that to somebody who you're going to put the rocket on the back, jetpack on their back, and shoot them off. Like, and unfortunately it didn't quite work out. And I wonder if this has part to do with it or not. I don't know, but it's just a little frustrating that like we went through with this and it didn't go anywhere ultimately.
Yeah. After All Out, Sean Spears just kind of his nosedives pretty much. Like,
yeah, and they made him look
just like
great first. Yeah. And it looks like Tully Blanchard's going to drop it.
Yeah.
I caught a little bit of dark, and it looks like Tully was talking with FTR, and it looks like they're going to drop he's going to drop Sean Spears. So it's like all together, like AEW is dropping Sean Spears, and that sucks because he's got a good look. He's a big guy, and unfortunately didn't really pan out for him here. So anyway, so obviously huge controversy. This walks away with a lot of blood on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a very worried Brandy literally at ringside. But then it goes into the Elite versus the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid. And, I'm kind of looking at your notes here. You say exactly what you would expect.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I mean, Young Bucks and Lucha Bros, it's just going to be a crazy spot fest car wreck stuff, which I love that stuff. So I'm not complaining. And then you got Kenny Omega in here, and then Laredo Kid, who's just like an extra piece of chunk of beef on this team. And it's just going to be it's funny how the different like genres of wrestling they have.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the Cody and Darby thing, and then it's like, then you got like this, and it's just like, which is good. I think you need like variety and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this match was fun, but this was at a time, they've been getting better with this, but this was at a time where like there were no rules with like, especially with tag teams.
Yeah.
And just like the whole, I hate it. It's such a pet peeve of mine when there's like a team, like both teams are in, and both people are doing like a submission, and the referee is looking at both people who have the submission on, seeing if which one is gonna tap out, but only one of them is
But
legal.
only one was going to count.
So it's like, or the whole like double pin thing, they'll do that. Like that just always like that always drives me nuts. But yeah. So aside from like, yeah, they're being
also
really
like you don't have to count the submission if somebody else is doing a submission in the ring. You don't have to count the pin if somebody else is illegally in the ring.
Right. Like, yeah. Exactly. So
there's a lot kind of wrong with the tag team psychology.
Right. But yeah, they've gotten better at it. But yeah, other than that, and like not knowing who like the legal man was and stuff like that, I thought,
which JR says 100 times,
right? Yeah, he was getting kind of frustrated too. It seems like, but yeah, I thought this was a fine match. It was fun.
One thing you may or may not know this, but Kenny went on record saying like his gear didn't show up.
Yeah,
so that's why he wasn't all dressed up in Akuma stuff Foley, which is so kind of lame. Like, I really hope they do this again in the future where he can really be Akuma. But just this was really solid. I love the Hadouken spot later in the match. Instead of the super kick, because you're expecting the super kick, and instead you get the Hadouken, and then you have JR like or as Golden Boy says, that's a Hadouken, that's a Street Fighter thing, and he's like, oh, I got that one. But anyway, this match was really good. I think again it's kind of obvious Laredo Kid was there to take the pin, which is why like obviously it's good it's not Pac, even though Pac wouldn't have been there anyway. But we know Pac ultimately takes the third man spot in this team in the long run. But yeah, this match, I think Laredo Kid looked great. So this made me really want more from their partnerships. Obviously OWE, we've talked a little bit about what happened with that. But AAA is also a partnership. And they went down there once, maybe twice. And then we get Lucha Bros like every week. And so it's kind of like, man, you guys got to give a little more and take a little more. Like, we could really do more outside of a pandemic. We could really do more to see more AAA wrestlers here. And I would just really like to see that. I really want to see them do more OWE guys the way that they said they were going to. That's kind of the only thing that kind of bothers me with this match is when you're looking forward. The match itself is fantastic. I love the Young Bucks, especially with Kenny. You have the Terminator clap, like the whole thing. The match is great. All I'm saying is I really want to see some more luchadors, honestly. Like, I want to see more some Mexican style. I would love to see them implement a Mexican, or a lucha style tag team match where they say like lucha rules where you don't have to tag, and especially if we end up with seeing like FTR versus the Lucha Bros in a 3 different match, 3 pay-per-view, program for the tag team titles. It would be great if the Lucha Bros said, okay, well, we want a match that's lucha style if you're going to make us hold the ropes and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling there, but let's just see what happens more with the future. But solid match.
Sure, yeah.
At this point, then the lights are about to go out. They kind of get confused because the commentary says, this is the end of the program, and the audience is like, what? Yeah. And then they said, we're going to turn off the lights, and when they come back on, we're going to have an unsanctioned match, and this is going to be Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela. This is going to be anything goes, falls count anywhere, like whatever, and it is not going to count towards your record, which is funny because then, Jon Moxley does another one of these against Kenny Omega later, and then when he actually debuts, they call it a debut, because he actually hasn't had a legitimate match, and I kind of like that. It was kind of weird at first, but they're but I like that they had this kind of thing. I hope they do another one soon. Where they can say, this is so crazy. No one cares about their record. They just want to kill each other. Like, that is good for
Right.
me. Anyway, tell me what you thought about this match here.
Yeah. So I think this was a great showcase for both guys. I mean, everyone kind of knew what they were going to get into with John Moxley, especially if they're familiar with his CZW stuff. But Joey Janela was kind of a hidden figure in this, and so I thought he was able to shine a lot. I didn't have no idea who Joey Janela was, and I know this kind of match is up both their alleys, especially with like their GCW and all the stuff that
CZW or whatever.
yeah, all those things. So yeah, I thought this was a good match. This is probably like the funnest match to watch. Just seeing like it didn't escalate to like it wasn't like the Full Gear John Moxley Kenny Omega thing. It didn't go like that crazy, but it's like it was a good like standard. Like, here's what you're gonna get with us. And I like that they were able to kind of really, it was a good way to like really break the mold of like WWE. This is what American pro wrestling is on TV kind of thing. And they're able to kind of like, bend that more. I mean, heck, they even like let both Joey and John were like swearing and stuff like that in the match. And, so some like notable spots, obviously like the big ladder spot that Joey Janela did. When he did like the elbow drop, the all like the barbed wire.
2 ladders.
Yeah. And then the thumbtacks and everything that happened there. The barbed wire chair was like really crazy. So yeah, there was a lot of good stuff. I think it wasn't much of a match. It was kind of just like we're just gonna throw each other in things, but like
I think commentary did a really good job in this match, believe it or not, with Jake, because I had so many issues with JR. I haven't spoken about him at all, but the first like 3-4 pay-per-views, JR drove me nuts, and I wanted him. I want, as much as I love JR, like I want, like, leave JR in his prime. Let's move on, find somebody else. Was my idea. But listening back on this match, I was very happy with how. I mean, when John Moxley grabs the barbed wire chair, they're like, oh, those are bloody paper towels from when he did that, like when he wrapped them up earlier. Or they talk about like when John Moxley went to a different, he took a different route in his wrestling career. Like Joey Janela stepped up and took his mantle. And, like, they did a lot to speaking to what was going on in the background and things like that. So commentary really made this match kind of what it was. And the thumbtacks with no shoes, man. The first time I saw that, I lost it. I remember texting my friend. It was like, I wanted to become a wrestler, but at this point, absolutely not. Like I just, if I ever have to do this, there's no way.
I know,
not
that
taking
still gets me.
Bare feet, getting oh man. And he obviously stepped on them multiple times before that and just like toughened it out and made no facial expressions. And then gets chucked in them feet first. I'm like, that is just, it's awful. So anyway, then at the end of the match, you have John Moxley wins, paradigm shift face first into a bunch of attacks, which is awful. And then Kenny Omega comes out for his revenge. And there is a lot of John Moxley just taking a fat beating. He gets a guitar to the back, which I'm like, please be a rock band guitar. But there's so much going on there. And then my favorite spot of the night is when the cameraman falls over backwards as John Moxley's being carried by the 2 referees before he punches both referees, which they've suspended people for since then. And Kenny comes out again, hits him with a trash can, and then does the paradigm shift to end the show into the trash can. What do you think about this post-match?
Yeah, this was good. Excellent build-up. I mean, there's way more – this is a much better build-up than the world title match. So I was totally glued in with this, especially with like the ending was like perfect. How like the last shot was just like Moxley just like smiling after taking like the paradigm shift through the trash can.
Yeah, he literally takes his own move to the trash can. He's just like,
And so, I was, of course we wouldn't be able to see this until Full Gear, but at the time they're kind of building this for All Out. And yeah, I was like super stoked for this. This match and the post-match angle I thought were great.
Word. So yeah, all together, man. I thought this pay-per-view was obviously very solid. It was a good follow-up for Double or Nothing, and especially being free, I was very happy. There was no way you could go wrong. All you did was spend a couple hours of your life watching this. You didn't spend any money, so I thought this was a very, very solid pay-per-view. Obviously, was not one of their big four. I mean, it is kind of at the moment, but it wasn't one of their big four. It wasn't the bookends of All Out and Double or Nothing. So anyway, for it being what it was, I really enjoyed this pay-per-view. I loved watching it back. And I'm excited to see what Fyter Fest next year will look like. This year was obviously a little bit different with COVID and making it two-night Wednesday night special. But anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought this was good. I thought the runtime was great. It clocked in I think it was right at about 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I think with what they had to showcase for this, I thought that was perfect. I mean, Cody and Darby was great. The main event was great. There's a couple things that were like Adam Page still not having much of a personality. The women's match, I can kind of give or take. But other than that, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid show.
Yeah, it's great to see where Adam Page is at now versus this, where Adam Page is I could see him being a world title contender any day now, but he wasn't going into the actual title match. And now looking back, I'm very happy that Jericho won. Obviously, it was kind of controversial because they gave it to a WWE guy or whatever, but it was the right choice for sure, especially we know his title run and everything. But Hangman just wasn't ready for it yet. He at this point, he really is just upper mid-card, lower main card. And now he really is the main card player, especially as the tag title champ and that story that he's in. I think it's just going to push him to the top. So
sweet.
I say –
yeah, what would you give out of 10? Remember, 5
I would say
average.
Yeah. Well, if we gave – I remember giving 8 to the previous pay-per-view. So, I'll give this one a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I gave 9 for Double or Nothing. I'll give this one a 7 as well. I thought it was pretty solid. It did everything it needed to do.
For sure. Sweet. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out this pay-per-view and this review of the pay-per-view. And, come back, check for more. We're going to have our review of AEW Dynamite every single Wednesday night, as well as more content coming to you either Monday or Friday of every week. So make sure you guys check it out, subscribe, leave comments below. Tell us exactly how horrible we are at telling you about wrestling. And Christian, what does that mean?
It means till next time, that's another in the can.